Hi, I'm Tim Bradner. Welcome to Capitol Views, and welcome today to Representative Dan Sadler, representing newly elected New House District 24 in Eagle River. And Dan is also a returning legislator who represented that area a couple of election cycles back. So welcome, Dan. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Tim. Pleasure to be back with you.
And I should also mention you are now the majority leader in the new Republican-led state house. So, Dan, maybe we could start by just talking about your background, what you've done, and how long you've lived in the district, and kind of why you decided you wanted to return to Juneau.
Very good. Well, like you, Tim, I came to Alaska to be a reporter, a journalist. I worked for the old Anchorage Times for about 4.5 years before it went away, and then got involved in political campaigns. That led to staff work for several legislators in Juneau, and that led to working for the executive branch for about 8 years, which led to an opening in the State House for my community of Chugach-Eagle River. I ran and was elected 4 times and was pleased to represent this district, which includes Chugach-Eagle River, Birchwood, as well as all of Joint Base Elmendorf-Richardson. I reached for the stars for a different office and did not win, so I went back to the executive branch for about 4 years, and the opportunity came open to run for the State House again, and grabbed it and won, and I'm very pleased to be back here in the Capitol.
Well, that's quite an interesting track record and trajectory. You worked I recall you were a press secretary to one of the governors.
I was actually I was a press secretary for then Speaker Brian Porter back in the 18th, I forget, 22nd, one of those legislatures back there. I was the press secretary for Governor Murkowski in Anchorage. I worked on his campaign and was pleased to represent him to the public, and did some work on communications for his and subsequent governors' gas line efforts. I did a stint at boards and commissions for Governor Parnell and Governor Palin, and that was my launching pad into electoral office. So I love Alaska, and I believe in the state system. I love it that we're a new state, and I've been in Alaska for 35 years now, and the chance to contribute to this great state in electoral politics is just an opportunity you don't get every day.
Well, Dan, could you talk about the district a little bit? It's Chugach-Eagle River are sort of bedroom communities for Anchorage. They've been growing very fast. Has anything?
I would love to. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm also interested in the military presence in the community. It's right near J-Bear, and it plays host to a lot of military families. And you've done
your research. Absolutely. This Chugach-Eagle River was settled largely by people who had worked at the old Fort Richardson, and it became a place where veterans could settle down and get a piece of land and build a house and be part of the Alaska dream. During the oil boom, it became more of a bedroom community as Anchorage began to run out of room. People looked north for larger lots, more freedom, closer to nature on the Chugach Mountains and Eagle River Glacier Valley. So it's a great community. A tremendous amount of active duty military find their homes in Eagle River, and when they get out of service, many of them stay in Eagle River, Chugach, and get careers. Some of them working on base, some working in private sector, some working in government. It is a very close-knit community, a very God-fearing community, lots of churches, good schools, and we are a little bit different philosophically and temperamentally from the rest of the municipality of Anchorage. Tend to be more conservative, maybe a little bit more neighborhood-minded, and we have some different views on some different issues in Chugach-Eagle River. And I'll tell you, my district, for the first 8 years I was in office, did include all of J-Bear for my first term, and then the Army side of J-Bear for 6 years. Under redistricting that happens every 10 years, my new District 24 does not include any of the base, although it certainly includes a lot of active duty military and Guard and veterans families.
Dan, when you go door to door in the district, what do you hear people talk about? What do they care about?
Well, they want to make sure you don't walk on their lawn, for one. Basically, I'm blessed to represent people who don't demand or expect a whole bunch from government. They came to Alaska many of them to be free, and many of them are in the Eagle River to get away from the big city of Anchorage. So mostly they want to be left alone. They don't want to be taxed for services they don't want. In Eagle River, we pay for our own fire service. We have our own road service area, our own parks and recreation. So people generally want to be left alone to take care of their own business. They want to have a stable economy, so the value of their homes and their businesses remain stable, so they can have a life and raise their kids and, in many cases, grandchildren. They have various views on the issues such as the permanent fund dividend. I sensed a slight difference this campaign cycle that people in Eagle River Chugiak were frustrated with the scent and the unpredictability of the permanent fund dividend. So I heard more times than not, just get it settled and let it be reliable and predictable.
That's a common refrain. You tend to hear that a lot in the legislature and a lot in the public these days. Dan, the Eagle River, it's a beautiful area. You're right up next to Chugach State Park. People obviously enjoy the outdoors quite a bit. You've got a beautiful setting there.
We are very proud of our natural beauty. We are more than a wide spot in the road. We have some of the best cross-country skiing trails. Shh, don't tell. The Beach Lake trails around Chugach High School would give Kincaid a run for its money. We have Mount Baldy. We have many entry points into Chugach State Park. Not in my district, but in 23 up Eagle River Valley, we have the Visitor Center or the Nature Center, which is a jumping off point for the Crow Creek Trail. So people that want to get out and see some wilderness can be there in half an hour. If you want to take a 2-day hike across to Girdwood, you can do that. It's a beautiful place. We have beautiful views of Mount McKinley, Denali, and we have a fantastic birch and spruce forests, and it's a gorgeous place to live, and I'm just very blessed to be there.
Dan, you're majority leader, so you're pretty busy, but you're also on other committees too? Maybe you could just mention some of the other committees that you're on.
Sure. Well, I serve on the Resources Committee and Labor and Commerce and Military and Veterans Affairs, which helps me take care of the interests of my veterans in my community, and on the Health and Social Services Committee. My heart lies with resources. I spent about 5 years working for the Department of Natural Resources, and I think that resources is the most important committee in the legislature. I know the folks in Judiciary and Finance think otherwise. But resources is where the money comes from in Alaska. It's one of our tremendous values. We all enjoy the wilderness and the wildness. So being on the committee that takes care of those resources and helps us generate revenue to pay for state government through resources is where most of my love for the legislative process takes place. Labor and commerce is important because we have to have a private economy. We have to make sure that private businesses can make a buck. And then it gets to health and social services. We have people in Alaska that need help and need support. We have many social pathologies and situations we need to deal with. And having some experience with the disabilities community and those who are less fortunate, I'm privileged to be on that committee to help take care of them.
Well, you're pretty busy. It sounds like you're pretty busy down there.
We are pretty busy. I actually also serve in the Legislative Council in my leadership position. So we have responsibilities for how the legislature does its business. As majority leader, my job is to some slight degree to help the other members of the majority with their work. We have a tremendously large class of freshmen, and they for some reason look up to me as an old head and they want guidance as to how to do things. So for a while anyway, my job as majority leader will include helping the new guys and gals come along and become experienced legislators in their own right.
Well, thank you for joining us today, Dan. It's you certainly got a long degree of experience to contribute there, particularly in the Resources Committee. Thank you very much.
My pleasure. I appreciate you covering the legislature. You have a broad experience in Alaska issues, and I'm really pleased you're still doing journalism. Thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you, Dan.